Well, welcome back to another episode of GSA Does That, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the federal agency delivering effective and efficient government. I'm your host, Rob Trivia, and today I'll be joined by Greg Rollins, Program Manager for GSA's Transactional Data Reporting Program. We'll be diving deep into how TDR is shaping the way GSA uses data to enhance business intelligence for government and its industry partners. Data touches every part of our lives, and GSA is leveraging it to help companies stay competitive, foster greater small business participation, and improve how GSA does business. So stick around as we explore transactional data reporting and how it benefits GSA and our business partners. Well, hello, Greg. Thanks for joining us on GSA Does That. I really do sincerely appreciate you taking the time today to have a discussion about TDR. But before we do, would you share a little bit about yourself and your particular role at GSA and with TDR?
Sure, Rob. My name is Greg Rollins. I'm the Deputy Assistant Commissioner in the FAST Office of Policy and Compliance. I'm also the FAST Program Manager for the Transactional Data Reporting Program. Glad to be here.
So, Greg, has your whole career been in FAST?
Actually, I predate FAST here at GSA. I started back in the Federal Supply Service as a contracting officer, working in the Multiple Award Schedule program. I've worked around various parts of GSA in the general supplies and what is now the general supplies and services portfolio, as well as in the information technology category, where I did a stint as the deputy. And then Schedule 70 before moving over here to the Office of Policy and Compliance.
Well, great. Thanks again for being here. We really do appreciate it. All right, Greg, take it easy on me. Explain transactional data reporting to a fifth grader.
No, thank you for the question. So really, transactional data at its core enables the government to understand, what is being bought and sold on some of the government's largest procurement vehicles. And it allows us to understand that at a more granular level than we've traditionally been able to understand. Think of TDR like a detailed receipt versus a rolled up invoice. So we know everything that's being sold, all of the products and quantity and other units of measure around that product.
When did you start with TDR? How long has this been going on now?
So the Transactional Data Reporting Program has been around for a number of years. We date back into the late teens. That being said, we've seen a lot of growth in the program over the last year. GSA has recently opened up the program to additional participants as of last August of 2024. And we're very excited to open up that aperture to allow more vendors to opt into this optional program. Which we feel has tremendous value for both industry and for the government.
So you explained it as a detailed receipt. I like that. That's helpful to me. I can understand that. So with this detailed receipt, with all of this data, with all of this numbers, how does it impact GSA's overall mission and the procurement process? How do you use the data?
So I think many of us are aware that, data is becoming a larger and larger part of decision-making, both in government and in the private sector, and frankly, in most of our personal lives. By being able to understand, at a line item level, what's being bought and sold. So that's talking about, what's the item, what's the unit of measure, who manufactures it, what's the manufacturer part number, information about the quantity sold, the price paid per unit. And recently we started collecting data around order date, ship date, zip code that a product is shipped to. That data allows us to leverage some very powerful use cases to help positively affect the procurement process. There certainly are, and there's a blog up on gsa.gov where we talk about several of these called Line Item Pricing Data Enhances Market Strategies and Small Business Success. That in that blog, we talk about how this data has allowed us to help small business market their products and services. So there's a great use case around our second generation IT BPA, where the category management team was able to use transactional data to look at what was being bought and sold within that vehicle and realize that small business was not as significant a part of the sales on that vehicle as it should be. And delving a little deeper, that allowed that team to understand that small businesses weren't participating because they weren't given letters of supply from original equipment manufacturers. And that led the program team to then engage with those original equipment manufacturers and be able to get more small businesses authorized to sell those products. And it's a great success story where we've been able to help drive small business success. We've been able to continue to work around supply chain risk management. When we understand what's being bought and sold at the line item level, when GSA is informed or receives information that there are supply chain risks on a given product, we know where that product has been sold, and that information we were actually historically lacking. That allows us to then reach out to a customer agency and let them know that there is a product potentially in their infrastructure that could present a security risk, and let them remediate that. Additionally, and I think, from an industry perspective, one of the most powerful use cases we've been able to help power with transactional data is frankly sharing this information back with our industry partners. But we are now publishing our transactional data regularly, within the GSA infrastructure that our industry partners can access currently on the vendor support center. But, that data allows industry to actually understand what's being bought and sold. And we found that the majority of sales, on our contract vehicles are from a very small number of line items. So that business intelligence allows industry to understand that and focus on the items with the highest potential for sales, as opposed to devoting time to putting items on catalog or maintaining items on catalog, which, see very limited sales volume.
So you're saying that the vendors out there can really see at a very granular level what the government is purchasing, how much they're purchasing, what exactly they're purchasing, so then they can strategize so they can be more competitive than ever, really, because they've got this data. So the data, you say, is helping them just as much as it's helping you.
We certainly hope so, and we've heard that feedback from our industry partners. We recognize, right, that everyone lives in a world of just-in-time delivery today. No one has large warehouses of product that's sitting anywhere. Or when they do, it's very limited, right? So being able to understand what's being sold, and in the future, as we hope to share back, some of the new data fields that we're collecting around, like I shared earlier, zip code shipped to, we hope that industry is able to leverage that data and understand the government's purchasing and be able to position themselves to meet those needs. In an era of just-in-time delivery.
Help me understand a little bit more about the supply chain and how it helps the supply chain, because obviously we went through some serious challenges with supply chain through COVID and the years following COVID. TDR, can it help something like that happens in the future? How can TDR help supply chain stay active so the government's not flat-footed?
Yeah, I think this data is leveraged both by the government and by industry. From the industry perspective, to help anticipate what the government's needs are based on historical spend. From a government perspective, this data, powers some very large tools that have been deployed recently, like the Procurement Copilot, which is in alignment with the Office of Management and Budget's, high-def contracting initiative. So that data puts this information in the hands of contracting officers government-wide, so they can understand how other agencies are buying, and help align that spend to help smooth some of those hiccups in the supply chain route that you indicate may have been historical challenges. There's no magic bullet here, but we're firm believers that data helps drive better decision making, and TDR helps provide that data.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is TDR mandatory for all vendors?
TDR is not mandatory. In fact, it is an optional program, and I'm glad you asked that question. As I mentioned, we recently expanded the scope of the program, and we've seen a good number of industry partners begin to opt in to TDR, which is great news, because as more vendors opt into the program, it helps create this virtuous cycle where we gather more information, we gather more data, which helps, empower the government with, better business intelligence and allows us to share that business intelligence back with our industry partners. So the more data we get, the more powerful it becomes. That being said, given that it's an optional program, we certainly hope that new entrants into the program, as well as existing entrants who are newly able to participate in TDR, really give this program a good look and see if this makes business sense for them. Based on the feedback we've received directly from industry, TDR saves the average, contractor 22 hours per contract per year versus the legacy reporting models. That data and those savings, we certainly hope, entices folks to take a look at this program and see whether it makes business sense for them. Because as I said, getting new entrants into this program helps create a cycle where we get more data and are able to help both industry and government be more successful based on that business intelligence.
Well, Greg, help me understand for those listening that are in industry. Sounds like collecting data takes time, filling out more paperwork, maybe filling out more fields on the computer before they do business. But you're saying it actually ends up saving time. Help us understand a little bit more.
Yeah, so this really is informed directly by our industry partners in our, part of the regulatory process is information collections. And we've heard directly from industry that this saves them time versus the legacy commercial sales practices reporting model. So, I think in the end, when you talk about the differences, there are, significant differences in terms of monitoring, given the the legacy model versus TDR in terms of tracking commercial sales practices, price reduction. Within the TDR program, we are asking for, 16 elements reported monthly, but I think in many vendors' commercial lives, data is becoming a trend, and I think complying with some of those data requirements, hopefully is significantly easier than some of the legacy model.
The ones that are choosing to opt into TDR, what do you hear? Why are they doing that? Why are they willing to try it and go through maybe a little bit of the learning curve to get through their first transactional data reporting? Sounds like once they do it, they're glad they did. But what's the benefit to them? What do they see as the benefit to just get on board?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it is exactly what we've been talking about in terms of, those savings. It is, overall a reduced level of effort versus the legacy reporting models. And I think, participation in TDR aligns very strongly with current commercial practice. So industry partners are used to providing data. They have this data more readily available. We have multiple ways for vendors to report this data to the government. While there is within our sales reporting portal, we do have a form entry, as well as an Excel upload methodology that, makes it easier on vendors who may be dealing with, very high volume transactions, in tool sets that are largely commercially available and, vendors are familiar with. So, those are our primary submission methods. We feel that those align with commercial practice and make it easy to participate in the program.
It's not mandatory to participate in TDR. Is it going to become mandatory at some point, or is that really not how it's evolving?
At this point, GSA is focused on continued maturation of the program. As we said at the start, this program has been around for a number of years. GSA has put a very strong amount of focus within the last 2 years around, both data quality and data use, both of which contribute to the maturity of the program. Our industry partners have been getting familiar with a more regular cadence of updates and information, from their contract compliance analysts, from their contracting officers, and now getting automated notifications via how we want the data reported. And, that focus on data quality, contributes to us being able to make the data more usable, put it in the hands of both industry and our contracting officers, and, progress in the maturity of the program. So that really is the area that we continue to be focused on, is, maturation. And there's certainly, areas of the program that have different levels of maturity, and we acknowledge that. While we've put a lot of focus at present around what we call non-configurable products, there are a good deal of conversations around configurable products and other types of services, both Service Contract Act services as well as professional services, and GSA is actively engaging with our industry partners and listening.
So regardless of whether or not it's mandatory or you're opting in, you are seeing a real trend where more and more of industry is participating in TDR.
Yeah, that certainly is the direction things continue to trend. And I think we've received very positive feedback from industry. I regularly see TDR, supported in the trade press from our industry partners. I think we recognize that data is the future, right? That is the direction that things are moving. And, we continue to stay focused on maturing that portion of the program that positions us towards, where we need to be in the 21st century versus where we may have where we may have begun in the 20th century.
Greg, I'm curious about, are there other agencies, or particularly what about the private sector? Are they collecting data like this so they can be more competitive and more efficient?
Yeah, based on the conversations that we've had, data is a part of doing business in the private sector. We know folks who participate with large e-commerce solutions are used to providing, significant volumes of data, back to through those e-commerce solutions, and we feel that the ask that we have tried to articulate within TDR is rather modest, and is looking to leverage data that exists elsewhere in the procurement program. So certainly, if you're an industry partner listening to this, whenever GSA contemplates looking at data fields, we're asking ourselves, does this exist somewhere else? Can we get this data somewhere? Rather than ask our industry partners for it. So that's certainly something, we are very conscientious about. That being said, we feel that this is certainly in alignment with industry standard and industry best practice. Certainly an area that we continue to look to mature and grow along with our industry partners in.
In industry, if it's, private sector, price is it's a highly regarded secret, what things cost, or what you're spending, what it costs to put something out on the market. With this TDR reporting, if I understand this right, the competition can see the pricing from the others that they're competing against. Do I understand that correctly? And if I do, I know that's got to have been addressed by now. How is that helpful, or is it not helpful?
No, that's a great question, Rob. Thank you for asking it. When we share demand data back with our industry partners, we actually anonymize who that data is originating from to protect, exactly the concern that you're highlighting. So, again, for anyone who's listening on the industry side, when we share that data back, we're not sharing that data comes from you as an individual. It is anonymized to present just an overarching picture of government spend. So that certainly is something that we have been very deliberate about based on the feedback from our industry partners.
So you're saying it actually can make you more competitive because, time is money. So if you have a real understanding, if you're in industry and you have a product, if you know that your price is competitive based on what others are selling it for to the government, you ought to be in that arena. But if you're not competitive, it could save you a lot of time. Is that what you're saying?
Very much so. That is certainly one powerful use case from industry to understand where you sit vis-a-vis the rest of the market, and allows you to better inform your go-to-market decision for your company as to whether this is a market sector for any given product that you want to target and you want to move towards.
So if I want to do business with the government and I'm selling a product, I'll be able to go in there, or I can now go in there and find out, what does the government spend on my product? Can I get into this arena? Will I be competitive? That's where this sounds like to be most helpful to industry, just from my lay perspective.
Yeah, that certainly is, the direction we continue to move. I mean, we're focused in terms of the demand data that we share with industry only on our highest demand items. We found that, several thousand high demand items, approximately 5,000, are accounting for 75% of the sales, right? So we're continuing to focus on that high volume data, rather than try and boil the ocean. because we realize we hit the point of diminishing returns when we talk about manipulating and sharing large data sets. So we're trying to focus where there's the most bang for the buck for everyone.
Does TDR have any impact on GSA Advantage?
Very good question. TDR, doesn't directly impact GSA Advantage. There are certainly, anything that's sold on Advantage is going to be, reported, if you're a TDR participant. That being said, the TDR information doesn't directly interface there currently, and nor do we have any intent for it to do so at this point.
What industries are opting into TDR mostly right now? Just so we can understand, because people listening, they could be selling pencils, they could be selling jet engines and everything in between, or it's services. Is it product, service? Is it both?
Yeah, so the area that we recently expanded to, and we spoke about that earlier in the August timeframe, was really focused on non-configurable products, right? So when we talk about non-configurable, it is products that don't have multiple options and accessories and permutations associated with them. Simple commodities, office supplies is a great example that you gave, but there's many others in terms of products that aren't highly configurable. That being said, for our industry partners, we're regularly engaging with industry in terms of talking about how we opt in. I know there's several videos that are posted on GSA's YouTube site already about how you determine if your contract is TDR eligible. How do you opt in? The time you can do it on a rolling basis. It's open and available for folks to opt in today. If you're eligible and on an eligible SIN, again, we can talk you through, and you can go to that YouTube channel. Watch some of our videos around TDR opt-in and, just walk through the process. But we'll show you exactly how you look at what SINs are TDR eligible. And if you have that, it's as simple as submitting a modification to opt into the program. And then given the lag in reporting, we'll wait until your next quarter, and then you'll finish up your regular, your historical reporting and under CSP, and then move to TDR as your point forward.
We've talked a lot about how this affects industry. How about your folks, Greg? How about the people that work under you? How does this affect on the contractors and those that are doing? Is this helping their job? Is it a little bit more laborious to collect all this data, or is it very automated and just makes things streamlined and simpler?
Well, thank you so much for the question, Rob. Our acquisition workforce is very supportive of TDR based on the feedback we've received. It allows them to have a degree of transparency that isn't otherwise present, and allows them to truly understand the items at the line item level that are being bought and sold, and work towards better contract outcomes. All that being said, we've also worked to fold this data into many of the tools that our contracting officers use day in, day out. So this data is baked directly into the tool sets that they're using. Some of our contracting officers may not even directly realize that they're interacting with TDR data as it's so melded into some of the tools that they're using on a regular basis. So we're certainly working to integrate that. And continue to work to get training out and work with our acquisition workforce to understand how best to understand this data and implement it within their acquisition processes.
It sounds like a lot of momentum for TDR. What's the future look like for TDR?
Now, thank you for that question. The program continues to mature and continues to grow. As we've talked about, we certainly hope that industry partners who are eligible to participate are taking a look at TDR and seeing whether it's the right fit for their company. If it is and they've got questions, we certainly encourage them to reach out to their contracting officers or centrally to TDR team at GSA.gov to ask questions about participation. As the program continues to mature, we hope to continue to feed that kind of virtuous cycle that I mentioned earlier, where we're able to collect more data and share that information back out. And as I said, we're continuing to focus on our long-term maturity of the program and engaging with our industry partners, engaging with our other stakeholders, asking good questions and listening about how we continue to mature, the other areas of spend within the program, and continue to grow and as we reach significant levels of maturity, look to expand the program. But we're just going to continue down the path of maturation at this point.
So, Greg, you're the chief TDR champion. I want you to have the final word. How would you encourage industry out there to really take their time to really get into the TDR data reporting? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would ask, any industry partners who are potentially eligible to take a look, to understand what goes into TDR reporting and join us on the journey. As we've talked about, I'm a firm believer that the data is the future. It's the direction that we're going. I think it aligns with industry practice and makes life easier on our industry partners who are participating. So we hope you join us on the ride. And if you've got questions, we're here to help answer them along the way.
Well, Greg, before we let you go, tell us where people go to learn more about TDR.
Yeah, so there's a couple different resources that are available. You can go to the TDR webpage on GSA.gov, which contains, all of the SINs that are currently participating in the program and a bunch more information. We regularly post within the multiple award schedule to the Interact page for MASS. As I indicated earlier, there's also a number of resources that we've got up on YouTube. So if you go to GSA's YouTube channel, you can see several videos that we've done around the mechanics of opting in and how that works if you're interested in pulling that thread a little further.
That's really helpful. I appreciate it, Greg. So hopefully this episode is a bit of a TDR primer, and there's lots more to learn.
Well, that does it for today's episode. A big thank you to Greg Rollins for joining us and shedding light on GSA's Transactional Data Reporting program. It's clear that TDR is playing a crucial role in helping both GSA and its industry partners make smarter, data-driven decisions. Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with others. I'm Rob Trubia, joined by our executive producer, Mr. Max Stempora. GSA Does That is a production of the U.S. General Services Administration, Office of Strategic Communication. I hope you have a great rest of your day.